Now, with the thanks to the kindness of Senator Cardin, Senator Sanders will be recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your tireless efforts on this issue and organizing this very important hearing today. Let me begin by expressing, and I say this as somebody who may have the highest pro-labor voting record in the United States Congress, my delight in hearing some of my friends express on the other side their interest about the needs of low-income people and working people and senior citizens. But I would remind everybody that many of these same people are folks who have fought to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, oppose raising the minimum wage, oppose the kind of jobs program we need to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and put millions of people back to work, oppose lowering college debts for many struggling students in this country. But the issue that we're dealing today is of enormous importance. And what it really comes down to is whether, as a nation, as the most powerful nation on earth, we are going to listen to the science. When we build weapons systems that cost billions of dollars, we take it for granted that the engineers know what they're talking about. When we invest in cancer research through the National Institute of Health, we assume and believe that the doctors and scientists know what they are talking about. But right now, we are in a very strange moment in American history. And that is, while traditionally there are differences of opinion on labor issues, on health care issues, that's what happens year after year, we are now at a very strange moment. And that is, we have virtually an entire political party that is rejecting basic science. And the science is no longer in doubt. Some 97% of scientists who have written in peer-reviewed journals say the following: climate change is real, it is significantly caused by human activity, it is already causing devastating problems in our country throughout the world. Yesterday, the newspapers reported that in Arizona, they're worrying about how Phoenix and other cities are going to get water because of the terrible drought we have seen in the Southwest. Australia is burning up. We have had extreme weather disturbances, major storms that have cost us billions and billions of dollars. Sea levels are rising, which may flood, among other cities, the great city of New Orleans, New York City, Boston. But for some strange reason, while we agree on science in almost every area of our life, in this area, we have a party that says, no, climate change is not real. It is maybe a hoax. It is something concocted by Al Gore or Hollywood. I am very proud that today, and I want to thank very much the panelists who are here, especially the former EPA administrators who were appointed by Republicans. I thank you so much for being here. Because while we can disagree on a million issues, we should not disagree on what scientists tell us. We should not disagree when scientists tell us that we have a window of opportunity, 10 or 15 years, to turn this thing around, to lead the world. Sure, John Kerry said the rest of the world has got to go forward. He's right, but somebody has got to lead. This country leads. And by the way, when we lead in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel, you know what we do? We create millions of jobs through weatherization, through energy efficiency, through wind, solar, geothermal, and other technologies that are out there. So I very much want to thank the former Republican administrators for coming here to Washington to say what I think is true nationally, that intelligent Republicans all over this country, I'm not a Republican, my views are very different, but on this issue we can at least respect science, we can respect the planet, we can transform our energy system, and most importantly, maybe at the end of the day, we have a moral responsibility for our children and grandchildren so that 30 years from now, they do not look us in the eye and they say, hey, all the scientists told you what was going on, why didn't you do something? Well, we have got to do something, and I thank you all very much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Senator Inhofe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding the hearing. While I think it's important for us to conduct oversight over the ESPS rule, We need to be hearing from Gina McCarthy, Janet McCabe at EPA, and from those who will be affected by the rule, which includes the utilities, the consumers, the manufacturers, the miners, and others. We need the record to reflect the whole picture of this rule, and we need to hear from the experts on electricity reliability like FERC and NERC. During his time in office, President Obama has pursued a systematic strategy for using the government to take over major sectors of the economy. He started with Obamacare, nationalizing the health care system. He went on to Dodd-Frank, making bank bailouts a permanent fixture in American society. Now we have the first round of a global warming regulations, which will nationalize the electricity market and force Americans to live out the president's green dream. We don't have to look any further than Obama's model, Germany, to see where the path leads. I think Senator Vitter covered this pretty well. The fact that they are now trying to get out from under the mess that they're in. And here we have Germany that has their cost per kilowatt hour has doubled. It's now triple what it is here in the United States, all because of this course that our president is trying to put us on. The administration may claim that this is unlikely, that the United States, because we have an abundance of cheap domestically sourced natural gas, and while that's true, I'm not naive enough to believe that the administration will stop with coal. In fact, Energy Secretary Ernst Moniz recently said that natural gas power plants will soon need carbon capture sequestration technology installed on them to comply with global warming rules. So that would put them out of business. And I'd like to suggest to the group that's here, it's not just coal, it's oil, gas, coal, and even nuclear that's under attack. Ultimately, President Obama's electricity takeover will force Americans to use less and less electricity at higher and higher prices. The motive of for this agenda is clear. Tom Steyer, and I'm going to ask that this be made a part of the record. Tom Steyer is a California billionaire who has promised to pump $100 million into the midterm elections to help Senate Democrats get elected if they make global warming a national issue. Now, this isn't me saying this. This is Tom Steyer. I don't have $100 million to give away. He does, and this means enough to him. So I do ask that this be made a part of the record.
Reserving the right to object.
And they are
reserving the right to object.
That's fine.
I would also like to
turn the timer off there.
Yeah, turn the timer off. I would also like to enter into the record the fact that the Koch brothers, representing the fossil fuel industry, will spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this campaign trying to defeat Democrats.
Do you object to have this part of the record?
So long as mine is able to be entered, I have no objection.
Sure, you can do that. That's fine.
Thank you.
By the way, just leave the timer off for a minute. I have the greatest respect for Senator Sanders. We are totally different on our philosophies. I understand that, but we have a respect for each other. We've had honest debates, and this is just one of them. So, but I think it's very important that we keep in mind that there is a guy that's out there.
So the timer will go back on, and both documents will be admitted into the record.
Very good. Thank you. So anyway, now we've had the global warming slumber parties on the Senate floor, and all of that's going on. But the reason guys like Tom Steyer have to go to such lengths to make the political issue is because the American people don't want anything to do with it. They talked about polls a minute ago. Poll after poll show more Americans learn about the impact of greenhouse gas regulations. The more it will have on the economy, the less they care. The Gallup poll that just came out that used to list global warming as number one and number two, and you remember that, Christy, back when you had that job. It's number 14 out of 15 major concerns. So the people have caught on to this. The most important issue, no, it's the economy. And we know that previous versions of cap and trade are estimated to cost between $300 and $400 billion a year, which amounts to about $3,000 for every family that files a federal tax return. And then we have to keep in mind that even if this were right, even if they were able to do this and pass this, it would not reduce, as one of the members said a minute ago, would not reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. Lisa Jackson, the director appointed by the EPA, appointed by Barack Obama, made that statement. He said, no, it would not reduce, because this is where the problem is. It's in China, it's in India, it's in Mexico and other places. So the $3,000 per family would be something that would not achieve the benefits that the other side seems to think are there. And this version is going to have a similar impact. The Chamber of Commerce estimated one final construct of the rule would cost $51 billion in a loss of GDP each year. Heritage Foundation estimated to decrease household income by $1,200 a year. These are the facts. But they're not talking about the points that we'll hear from the other side. Let's keep in mind also, we're doing this now. They're trying to do this through regulation. Obama is, because he couldn't do it through legislation. We've had countless bills introduced to do the very same thing through legislation. Each time they're introduced, they're defeated by a larger margin. And so I think, if no other reason, the mere fact that it's been rejected by the House and the Senate is very significant. And why should we, through regulation, try to do something that the elected members of this body have rejected over and over again? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Inhofe. We turn now to Senator